What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another video where we break down the 2025 Major League Baseball divisions. We've already done the AL East and the NL East, so for this one we're going to jump to the Central, and we're going to start with the NL Central this time. So we have last year, obviously, the Brewers won, and there were some expectations from some other teams they didn't live up to. So we're going to go through the Brewers, Pirates, Cardinals, Cubs, and Reds, and go 1 through 5. Be sure to let us know in the comments who you think is going to come out with the NL Central. I've been wrong about this a few years in the past, and I will not be fooled again, which is where I start with number 5. And I hate to say it because I was a believer in this team for the previous couple of years when nobody else was, and it turns out they had reason not to be. Number 5 in the NL Central for me is the St. Louis Cardinals. I look at this roster, and there are some names on it that should give me reason to be excited. Some of the same names we've seen in previous years. Sonny Gray leading the pitching staff. Ryan Helsley, one of the best closers in baseball. Wilson Contreras. Brendan Donovan, a really good player. Alabama's own, so I'm a big fan of that. Nolan Arenado, of course. Mason Wynn. Jordan Walker. Like, these are names that we've heard from St. Louis the last couple of years, and they just have not produced. They did finish second a year ago, I believe, with 83 wins, but it wasn't good enough for the playoffs. Look, Paul Goldschmidt is gone. Nolan Arenado apparently doesn't really want to be there. I don't expect him to be on the Cardinals come October. I expect him to be playing in the playoffs with somebody else. So there's really no reason, despite the fact that there are some good individual players on this team, this same group of guys has not proven an ability to put together wins. And so this year I can't be the believer in them that I have been in the past. So for me, number 5 is the St. Louis Cardinals. And I think Ben Verlander put it best when he said, a team that has been known for culture, known for consistency, that culture seems to have evaporated. And it was expected that they would let Paul Goldschmidt go. It was expected they would trade Nolan Arenado. Obviously, Nolan Arenado is still there, but as I said, he does not seem like he wants to be. So I expect him to be playing somewhere else at some point this season. Going to go straight into number 4, and this one really, really hurts me because this one is the most frustrating one to me. Number 4 for me, simply because they didn't do anything, is the Pittsburgh Pirates. Look, we all wanted the Pittsburgh Pirates, maybe not all, but there was a lot of reason to be excited by the Pittsburgh Pirates a year ago. They had one of the worst offensives in baseball, but you look at what their pitching staff was doing, and there was every reason in the world to be thrilled. I happened to get the chance to be in Pittsburgh last May, about a couple of weeks after Paul Skeens got called up, and I missed seeing him live by a day or two. I believe he pitched the night before the game we went to, but you could feel the energy back in PNC Park. It's one of the best venues in baseball, and you could feel the energy of that fan base returning to that team. So it made all the sense in the world where they had an offense that averaged 4 runs a game. It was one of the worst marks in the sport, but you say, okay, the offseason is coming. There's a lot of names out there. Maybe they'll do something because they have this huge 3-headed monster in the rotation of Paul Skeens, Jared Jones, and Mitch Keller, all 3 of which are returning. And then you add the depth at the back end of that rotation of Andrew Heaney and Bailey Falter, who's a really good pitcher himself, and for that depth. So you expect they're going to add some offense. They have to. Like, you expect Ke'Bryan Hayes to take a step forward. They obviously still have all-stars like Brian Reynolds and O'Neal Cruz, and Andrew McCutchen is back to finish his career with the Pirates, and former number 2 overall pick Joey Bart seems to have found a little bit of a career resurgence in Pittsburgh, but that's not enough. That's not enough to compete in a division that is at the top, very offensive heavy. So you'd say, oh, the Pirates are going to do something. And I said all offseason, even in the middle of last season, I said, Pete Alonso to the Pirates, Pete Alonso to the Pirates, Pirate Pete. It made all the sense in the world. Even I was playing MLB The Show 24, and in the road to the show, my character, who happened to play for the Reds, a couple of years down the line, we're playing against the Pirates, and there's Pete Alonso at first base. Even MLB The Show knew that Pete Alonso to the Pirates made all the sense in the world. I kept waiting to see it happen. Pete Alonso to the Pirates. Pete Alonso to the Pirates. The Pirates did nothing in the offseason. The most notable move they made in the offseason was adding Tommy Pham for outfield depth. That's not getting you anywhere. It does not make sense to me that in a division a year ago with those three pitchers at the top of their rotation, with one of the worst offenses in baseball, the Pirates still finished 76 and 86. They were only 7 games out of second place in a division where the division champ had 93 wins. So the last place team, Pittsburgh Pirates, were only 13 games out of first place in their own division. It sounds like a big number, but if you add a couple of bats and you bring back a full season of Paul Skeens, a full season of the three of them together, there's no reason to believe you can't compete for this division. I don't think the Brewers are going to be better with the loss of Willy Adames. So I still think the mark for this division could be around 92, 93 wins. And I think if you added a Pete Alonso, if you added an Alex Bregman, if you added one of these other bats that were out there, I'm not saying they ever had a shot at a guy like Juan Soto, but there were a lot of other bats out there, a Christian Walker. If you added one of these big bats to spearhead, give this offense some power and some experience, I don't see why they couldn't flip it and go up by 16, 17 wins. We saw the Royals a year ago go from 100 losses to 86 wins in a year. There's no reason with that rotation why the Pittsburgh Pirates couldn't do the same thing. And it baffles me and it maddens me that the Pirates didn't do anything. I've been preaching Pete Alonso to the Pirates since the middle of last season. It made all the sense in the world. I could visualize it, even a video game. And so it didn't make any sense to me. And so simply because I'm frustrated by the lack of an offense surrounding the Pirates, I'm going with them in 4th place. And look, what's even more frustrating, the Pirates have 4 of the top 100 prospects, 2 of which are on offense, but they're not close to the league. But their top 2 guys, Bubba Chandler at 15 and Thomas Harrington at 79, are starting pitchers. And they're in AAA. They're knocking on the door. They could be good. You could have 5 guys that were at one point top prospects. You could have a rotation full of guys. We don't know what Harrington and Chandler will be like at the major league level, but if they're anything like the 3 they have up there, this could be one of the best 1 through 5 rotations in baseball, and you're doing nothing to address your offense? Nothing? One of the worst offenses in baseball, you still managed to be 76 and 86, only 13 games out of first place, and you do nothing to address your offense other than add Tommy Pham. He's not worth that many wins, I promise you that. So simply because I am frustrated with the Pittsburgh Pirates, I have to put them in 4th place. 3rd, in my mind, in this division, going forward for 2025, I have to go with the Milwaukee Brewers. I know that they've won the division the last couple of years. They had a great year last year, but like I mentioned just a minute ago, they won what was, a pretty weak division all told. They won with 93 wins. They've lost Willy Adames. Christian Yelich tends to have more and more injuries as the years go on. So I don't think he's going to be 120 game a year anymore. They've never had pitching depth. They had Corbin Burns. They let him go. They had Josh Hader in the bullpen. They let him go. They had Devin Williams in the bullpen. They let him go. So right now, as it's slated, their top guys in the rotation are Brandon Woodruff, who's dealing with an injury, Freddie Peralta, and Nestor Cortez, who hasn't really been the same since a couple of years ago. So this is not a rotation that fires me up. And they do have a lot of really fun players from that offense a year ago. They have William Contreras, Rhys Hoskins, Bryce Terang, Sal Frelick, Christian Yelich, Jackson Chourio, who's one of the most exciting young players in baseball, back for his 2nd year. A lot of young players here, but not a ton of depth on this roster. With Willy Adames gone, that's going to hurt them. They didn't really replace that bat in their lineup. And right now, the starting shortstop for the Brewers is expected to be Joey Ortiz. Okay. I don't know much about him, but he's not Willy Adames. He's not what Willy Adames did a year ago. So I don't have a lot of reason to believe that the Brewers will repeat, especially with a lot of the firepower that exists in the lineups above them. So just simply because the Brewers kind of went wire to wire with the NL Central very quietly a year ago. They won the thing with 93 wins. I think it's going to take more than that this season, and I don't think they have the firepower to get that many wins this year. I think they could still be a playoff team, but I think they'll be taking a step back. I have them as coming in third in the NL Central. Granted, as I said, this is the division that I've been the most wrong about in the past. Who knows what's going to happen? But right now, I have the Milwaukee Brewers at third in the division. Coming in second, and honestly giving them a little more credit than I'd like to, simply because of the addition of Kyle Tucker, I have the Chicago Cubs. I do think the Chicago Cubs are going to be improved from their 83 and 79 mark a year ago, tying them for second place with the St. Louis Cardinals, because I think Kyle Tucker provides that much of a difference. He's a 30 home run guy at the top of their lineup, which I think is huge for them. A team that had some power but not a lot a year ago. They did lose Cody Bellinger, but I think they more than make up with that with the addition of Kyle Tucker. It looks like Matt Shaw, their top prospect, the number 19 prospect in baseball, is going to start the year as their starting third baseman. It seems like they're pretty high on him. We saw a little bit of him in the Tokyo series. But one of the reasons, and I'm not hating on the Cubs, but one of the reasons why, I haven't been thrilled with this team in the past, or on paper, it always seems like they should be a lot better than they end up being. They've had Dansby Swanson on the roster for a few years. They've had Nico Horner on the roster for a few years. They've had Ian Happ. They're running it back with Pete Crow Armstrong wearing a New Jersey number. They've had Seiya Suzuki. They've had a lot of these guys for a few years, and it just seems like they keep underperforming. They did add a few pieces this offseason. They've added a few pieces of this offseason to hopefully give them some veteran presence and fill out their roster a little bit. Again, mostly led by Kyle Tucker, but they added starting pitching depth with Matthew Boyd. They added depth at third base by signing Justin Turner and John Birdie. They added some of these veteran pieces. They've added some pieces that could fill out that roster a little bit more, so it's not a lot of these high expectation prospects, which maybe the pressure got to them, maybe because it's Chicago, maybe it's because they finally ended the thing and now we're coming on 9 years since then and they haven't really been close to getting back to that. Granted, everybody from that team is gone, but still, I think the pressure is starting to mount on these young guys that were supposed to bring the Cubs sustained success after the Wrigleyville Raise the W World Series champion Chicago Cubs left, and that hasn't happened. For me to be fully convinced that this team is going to be as good as they should be, I need to see some of these players that I mentioned take a step forward. Nico Horner did have surgery in October, but he is slated for an April return, so hopefully if that goes smoothly. Honestly, the fact that I've been let down by the Cubs in previous years, the last couple of years, made me want to put them lower, made me want to put them in third place. But because of the addition of Kyle Tucker, because of this rotation of Shota Imanaga, Justin Steele, Jamison Taillon, and Matthew Boyd, and Javier Assad, although he's currently on the 15-day injured list, that's a good rotation. I'm not thrilled with their bullpen. They do have Ryan Presley slated as their closer, which could be pretty good. But I need to see more from some of these guys that have been on this roster for 4, 5, 6 years now. But I do think Kyle Tucker is going to make a huge difference for this offense. And like I mentioned, I don't expect Justin Turner to start. I don't expect John Birdie to start. But Justin Turner could play DH some days. John Birdie provides a lot of speed in pinch run situations, or for an outfield guy, I think he's usually been an infield guy, but try him in the outfield. He's got a lot of speed. Maybe he could do that. He's currently on the depth chart as a backup outfielder, a backup left fielder. I think that could work. But I need to see more from this Cubs roster outside of Kyle Tucker. The Cubs that have been there now before I can say this is the best team in the division, they're going to win something. So at number 2, I have the Chicago Cubs, which brings me to number 1. Last year, a lot of people were touting them as the top team, and then injuries just kind of derailed that. They missed the playoffs. But Elly De La Cruz did have a huge season. At number 1, I have the Cincinnati Reds. Now, I do expect, it seems like a lot of these guys are healthy again. TJ Friedl is back healthy. They have Gavin Lux, who is looking forward to a change of scenery after moving on from the Dodgers. Matt McClain is back. Christian Encarnacion Strand is back. I think there's reason for this team to be excited. They added Austin Hayes for outfield depth, and Tyler Stevenson, who's currently dealing with an injury. Hopefully we'll see him at catcher. He really came on last year, so hopefully he will be back at some point this season. It looks like he has a low-grade oblique strain and is on the 10-day injured list, so that doesn't seem to be too serious, but you never know. What's really interesting to me is this rotation. Could be better, but I don't hate it. Hunter Green at the top is a stud. Nick Martinez, Nick Lodol, Brady Singer, who they got in a trade after trading the face of their franchise after Joey Votto. Jonathan India traded to the Kansas City Royals, so they have Brady Singer slotted in their rotation. Andrew Abbott, who's a good innings eater, he's dealing with a little bit of an injury right now, but they also have a guy who's I think expected to break camp with the team. If not, he's ready. I think he's about ready to be that guy. They have Brett Lauder, who is currently listed as the 35th best prospect in baseball. He's one of their top pitching prospects. They have Chase Burns at 26, but he's in rookie ball, so we won't be seeing him. They also have a shortstop at 91 in Double-A in Edwin Arroyo, who could potentially pick up the mantle left by Jonathan India at that position. But right now, they have the middle of the infield covered right now with Matt McClain, Gavin Lux, and Elly De La Cruz. So no rush on him, but I do think Brett Lauder could show up and provide some good depth. This rotation isn't going to blow you away, but I think this is going to be a solid, sturdy rotation of innings-eating quality start guys. So right now, if everybody stays healthy, I think we could see what we expected to see last year with the Reds, and that is a division championship. So that is my rundown of my predictions for the 2025 NL Central. Let us know in the comments what your predictions are for this division. And until next time, I'm Roman Gennaro. This is Empire Sports Talk, and I'll see you on the next one.